The stars glittered against the black void as the Terran diplomatic vessel Horizon drifted at the agreed meeting point. Admiral William Carter stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face reflecting the soft blue glow of the ship's monitors. 50 years of human expansion throughout the solar system had prepared him for many things, but first contact with an alien civilization was not one of them. "Any sign of them yet?" he asked, his deep voice breaking the tense silence on the bridge. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez looked up from her console. "Nothing yet, Admiral, but they should arrive within the hour if they keep to the schedule." Carter nodded. The unexpected transmission had arrived just 2 weeks ago, a formal greeting from something calling itself the Concordat, a federation of alien species that claimed dominion over this section of the galaxy. The Terran Security Council had appointed him and Martinez to make first contact, a responsibility that weighed heavily on his shoulders. "Do you think they're friendly?" asked a young officer nearby. Martinez smiled wryly. "They haven't shot at us yet, so that's a good start." The bridge crew chuckled nervously. Humanity had only recently begun to consider itself an empire, with colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan all working together under the banner of the Terran Empire, a democratic confederation that bore little resemblance to the empires of old Earth. A soft alarm sounded, and all eyes turned to the main view screen. "Contact," Martinez announced. "Something just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It's massive." The alien vessel that appeared dwarfed the horizon. It gleamed with an iridescent hull that seemed to shift colors as they watched. Intricate patterns covered its surface, technology far beyond anything humans had developed. "Open a channel," Carter ordered, straightening his uniform. The view screen flickered, and they found themselves looking at a being that resembled a tall, slender humanoid with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like polished copper. Elaborate markings adorned its elongated face, and its 6 eyes blinked independently of each other. "I am High Envoy Zach Thule of the Concordat," the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computers into slightly mechanical English. "We greet the representatives of the Terran Empire." There was a note of something like amusement in the way it pronounced their name. Carter stepped forward. "Admiral William Carter and diplomat Olivia Martinez, representing humanity and the Terran Empire. We welcome you in peace and friendship." The alien tilted its head. "How long has your species been capable of interstellar communication?" "We established our first off-Earth colony 53 years ago," Martinez replied. "Though we've been transmitting radio signals for nearly 3 centuries." All 6 of Zach Thule's eyes widened simultaneously. "You developed independently, without oversight." Carter and Martinez exchanged confused glances. "Yes," Carter said slowly. "We evolved on Earth and developed our technology ourselves." A rapid exchange in an unknown language took place between Zach Thule and others off-screen. The atmosphere in the alien vessel seemed suddenly tense. "This is unprecedented," Zach Thule finally said. "All sentient species within Concordat space develop under our guidance. It is the natural order." Martinez stepped forward. "We would be happy to learn about your civilization and share knowledge." "You misunderstand," Zach Thule interrupted. "Unguided species present risks. The Concordat exists to ensure stability and proper development of all sentient life." The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop several degrees. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Carter asked. "Your civilization must submit to Concordat authority for proper integration. Your independent status cannot continue." Carter's expression hardened. "With all due respect, High Envoy, humanity governs itself." Zach Thule's upper arms made a dismissive gesture. "This meeting is concluded. You will receive formal terms shortly. The Concordat welcomes all species, whether they choose to be welcomed or not." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Martinez turned to Carter, her face pale. "Did an alien civilization just threaten us?" Carter's gaze returned to the massive ship outside. "I believe they did. and something tells me the Terran Empire isn't going to take kindly to their terms. The Terran Security Council chamber buzzed with urgent voices. 24 hours had passed since the tense first contact, and the situation had only grown more serious. Director Patricia Gomes, head of the council, called the emergency session to order with 3 sharp raps of her gavel. "We've received the formal communication from the Concordat," she announced to the grim-faced representatives from Earth and its colonies. "Admiral Carter, please share what we know." Carter stepped to the center of the circular chamber. The aging military man looked like he hadn't slept since returning from the meeting with Zach Thule. "The message is clear," he said. "We have 30 days to surrender all military assets and accept what they call protected species status. According to their terms, we would dismantle our defense forces and accept Concordat representatives as our governing authority." Angry murmurs filled the room. A representative from Mars stood up. "And if we refuse?" "They were not subtle about the consequences," Carter replied. "They possess technology far beyond our own and control hundreds of star systems. The threat is clear: submit or face military action." The door to the chamber slid open, and a man with disheveled brown hair rushed in, clutching a data tablet. Everyone turned to look at the interruption. "Sorry I'm late," said Ryan Kelly, the head of Terran Intelligence. "But you need to see what we found." Director Gomes nodded for him to continue. Kelly tapped his tablet, and images appeared on the main screen. Alien worlds with massive extraction operations, species living in what looked like carefully controlled environments. "We've been analyzing the data packet the Concordat sent," Kelly explained. "It contains information about their other protected civilizations. From what we can tell, protected status means essentially becoming a resource farm for the Concordat. The species are contained, their development strictly controlled, and their resources harvested." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "There's more," a woman's voice called from the doorway. Dr. Samantha Lewis, the Empire's leading xenotechnologist, walked briskly to join Kelly. "My team has been studying the scans we took of their ship. Their technology is impressive, but not incomprehensible. We've identified potential weaknesses in their shield configurations." Director Gomes leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we could defend ourselves?" "I'm suggesting," Dr. Lewis said carefully, "that their technological advantage may not be as absolute as they want us to believe." Carter crossed his arms. "Even so, we're outmatched. They have more ships, more weapons, and centuries more experience." "But they don't have our determination," Kelly countered. "And they clearly don't understand humans. Their message assumes we'll simply give up rather than fight against odds." The representative from Europa, a thin man with a quiet voice, spoke up. "Have they done this before? Given ultimatums to other species?" Kelly nodded grimly. "According to their own data, yes. Dozens of times. And it appears that most species submitted without resistance." "Well," said Director Gomes, "they haven't met humans before." She stood and addressed the entire council. "I propose we reject their ultimatum and begin immediate preparations for our defense. We use these 30 days wisely. We adapt, we prepare, and we show this Concordat that humanity will not bow to threats." One by one, the council members voiced their agreement. The vote was unanimous. As the meeting adjourned, Carter pulled Kelly and Lewis aside. "I want everything you have on their technology. If we're going to stand against them, we need every advantage we can get." Lewis nodded. "I'll have my team working around the clock. There's something about their shield harmonics that might be exploitable." Director Gomes joined them, her expression resolute. "Send the message to the Concordat. Tell them the Terran Empire does not surrender. Not today. Not ever." As the response was transmitted into the depths of space, humanity began preparing for war. The orbital shipyards around Mars buzzed with activity. Workers in spacesuits moved like busy ants across the hulls of warships. Inside the command center, Admiral Carter reviewed the latest readiness reports. 15 days had passed since they sent their refusal to the Concordat. 15 days remained until the deadline. Status update, Carter demanded, looking at the tired faces of his officers. All outer colony defense platforms are at 60% upgrade completion, reported Commander Alan Bishop. The inner system fortifications will be ready in 10 days. Carter nodded. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than he had hoped. And the fleet. We've retrofitted 83% of our ships with the new shield modifications, a younger officer replied. But we're still outnumbered at least 5-1 based on intelligence estimates. The door slid open, and a tall man with grease-stained hands entered. Jason Howard, the lead engineer from the R&D division, carried a small device that pulsed with blue light. "Admiral, we've done it," Howard said, his eyes bright despite obvious exhaustion. "The shield harmonic modifier is working in full-scale tests." The news sent a ripple of hope through the command center. Dr. Lewis's team had identified a potential weakness in Concordat shield technology, and Howard's engineers had been working day and night to develop countermeasures. "Show me," Carter said. Howard activated a display screen showing test footage. A miniature version of a Concordat weapon fired at a protected target. The shield glowed, absorbed the energy, and remained intact. "Their weapons operate on a specific frequency range," Howard explained in simple terms. "Our standard shields would fail after 2 or 3 hits, but these modified shields redirect the energy back into space. They won't last forever, but they'll give our ships a fighting chance." Carter clapped Howard on the shoulder. "Get some sleep. Then I want these installed on every ship we have." As Howard left, Kelly from intelligence arrived with a young woman in a flight suit. "Admiral, this is Lieutenant Sophia Reyes," Kelly said. "She just returned from a very unauthorized mission." Carter frowned. "Explain." Reyes stood at attention. "Sir, my scout team located a damaged Concordat vessel at the edge of the Neptune defense zone. It was a small scout ship with only 4 crew members. We captured it." The room fell silent. Carter's expression shifted from anger to cautious interest. "You captured an alien vessel without authorization?" "Yes, sir," Reyes replied without apology. The opportunity presented itself. Their ship had suffered some kind of system failure. "We have 3 Concordat crew members in custody, and our ship is being towed to the Titan research facility." Kelly stepped forward. "One of the aliens is talking. They're not as united as they want us to believe. This one belongs to a species that was protected by the Concordat 3 centuries ago. They're not exactly willing servants." Carter processed this information. "This could be valuable. Get everything you can from the prisoners and that ship." Across the solar system, civilians prepared as well. On Earth, people built underground shelters. On Mars, colonists practiced evacuation drills. On Europa, ice miners converted their equipment into makeshift weapons. In a secure lab on Titan, Dr. Lewis studied the captured Concordat ship with growing excitement. "This changes everything," she whispered to her team as they examined the alien technology. "Their navigation system has detailed maps of Concordat space. Look at this. There are at least a dozen other species under their control who might not be happy about it." Her assistant looked up. "Are you suggesting potential allies?" Lewis smiled. "I'm suggesting the Concordat might have more to worry about than just humans." She tapped her communicator. "Get me Director Gomes and Admiral Carter. Tell them we might have just found the Concordat's biggest weakness." As the deadline drew closer, humanity prepared for war. But now, for the first time, they prepared with hope. The 30-day deadline passed. On Europa, the ice-covered moon of Jupiter, colonists gathered in the main dome to watch the emergency broadcast. Children clung to their parents. Workers stood with their tools still in hand. Everyone knew what was coming. Commander Elizabeth Ward paced the bridge of the defense vessel, Defiant. As head of Europa's small defense fleet, she had spent the last month drilling her crews and installing Howard's shield modifications. "Contact," shouted her sensor officer. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Concordat signatures confirmed. Ward's heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. Battle stations. All ships form defensive pattern. Civilian evacuation protocols are now active. The Concordat fleet appeared like dark stars against the blackness of space. 5 large warships and dozens of smaller craft approached Europa's orbit. They dwarfed the human vessels. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. The main screen showed a different alien than Zack's Thule. This one had pale blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. "Humans of Europa colony," the alien said. "Your time has expired. Surrender your weapons and prepare for occupation. Resistance is futile against the might of the Concordat." Ward stepped forward. "This is Commander Elizabeth Ward of the Terran Empire. We reject your demands. Europa and all human settlements remain free." The alien seemed surprised by her response. The transmission cut off abruptly, and moments later, the Concordat ships opened fire. Energy beams lanced toward the human fleet. Ward gripped her command chair. "Shields holding," reported her tactical officer with amazement. "Howard's modifications are working." Ward allowed herself a small smile. "Return fire. Target their lead vessel." The battle for Europa had begun. Human ships darted between the larger Concordat vessels, using Jupiter's radiation belts for cover. The shield modifications gave them precious time to strike back. 3 hours into the battle, Ward's fleet had lost 2 ships, but they had destroyed 7 Concordat vessels. The aliens seemed shocked by the effectiveness of human defenses. "Commander," called her tactical officer, "the Concordat fleet is pulling back. They're retreating." A cheer erupted on the bridge. Ward remained focused. "Maintain alert status. This isn't over." Later that day, in a secure holding facility on Mars, Ryan Kelly interrogated a captured Concordat officer. The blue-skinned alien sat across from him, mandibles clicking nervously. "Why did your attack force retreat?" Kelly asked. The alien looked confused. "You were supposed to surrender immediately. That is what primitives do when faced with superior technology." "Primitives?" Kelly raised an eyebrow. "Lesser species," the alien clarified. "Those not part of the founding races of the Concordat. Our commanders assured us humans would not resist, that you would recognize your place." Kelly leaned forward. "Your commanders were wrong." News of the victory at Europa spread quickly throughout the solar system. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets. On Mars, military recruiters saw lines form outside their offices. Humanity had stood against an alien threat and won the first round. In the Terran Security Council chamber, Director Gomes listened to Ward's battle report with growing confidence. "The Concordat will be back," Carter warned, "and in greater numbers." "Let them come," Gomes replied. "Each day gives us more time to prepare. And now we know something important. They underestimate us." Lewis nodded in agreement. "I've analyzed communications from captured Concordat devices. Word of our resistance is spreading through their networks. Other subjugated species are watching carefully." Gomes turned to the assembled council. "Then let's give them something to watch. Humanity will not just defend. We will show the galaxy what happens when you threaten the Terran Empire." For the first time since the ultimatum arrived, the human leaders began to plan not just for survival, but for victory. 2 weeks after the Battle of Europa, Olivia Martinez found herself in an unusual place. The diplomat sat in a small room aboard a neutral trading station at the edge of the solar system. Across from her was a being unlike any she had met before. Small, with iridescent scales and 4 delicate arms. "You risk much by meeting with me," the alien said in a whispered tone. "I am Krill of the Mythari Federation. We have watched your conflict with interest." Martinez studied the alien carefully. "The Terran Empire appreciates your willingness to talk. Our intelligence suggested the Mythari might not be loyal allies of the Concordat." Krill made a sound like chimes in the wind. A laugh. "Allies? We are subjects, just as they intended your people to be." The Mithari were one of the first to be protected by the Concordat 300 years ago. Yet you have some freedom to move and trade, Martinez observed. We earned certain privileges by appearing to accept our role, Krill said. But we have never forgotten what it meant to be free. Your resistance has created opportunities. Meanwhile, on a secure communication channel, Andrew Green, another Terran diplomat, spoke with representatives from 3 other species. His mission had been one of the most dangerous and most secret, to contact potential allies within the Concordat itself. The Concordat High Command is in disarray, said a large insectoid being whose name translated as Stone Who Speaks. They did not expect humans to win any battles. Now many question whether the cost of subjugating Earth is worth the effort. The Concordat has never failed to absorb a species before, added another alien, a serpentine creature called Vish. Your successful defense has caused much discussion among the lower tiers of our society. Green leaned forward. Then perhaps it's time to discuss how we might help each other. Back on Earth, Director Gomes reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Concordat fleet had withdrawn to a position beyond Neptune, apparently regrouping for another attack. But the reports also showed something unexpected: communication difficulties among the Concordat forces. They're arguing, Kelly explained as he pointed to intercepted transmissions. From what we can translate, several factions within their leadership disagree on how to proceed against us. Can we exploit these divisions? Gomes asked. Kelly smiled. We already are. Green and Martinez have made contact with potential allies, some within the Concordat itself. On Mars, Howard and Lewis worked together in a large laboratory filled with parts from the captured Concordat scout ship. Engineers and scientists moved around them, adapting alien technology to human systems. The power coupling is compatible, Howard said with excitement, as a human device, successfully connected to an alien power source. We can integrate their faster-than-light technology into our larger ships. Lewis nodded. And their weapons. At this rate, we'll have 3 cruisers upgraded with Concordat technology within a month. Will it be enough? Howard asked. It has to be, Lewis replied. Our spies report they're assembling a much larger fleet for the next attack. In his command ship beyond Neptune, High Envoy Zax Fool faced growing dissent. A subordinate carefully approached him. Honored Envoy, we have received messages from 17 subject worlds. They ask why humans have not been subjugated as promised. Zax Fool's 6 eyes narrowed. Tell them the process takes time. There are also reports of unauthorized meetings between some of our subject species and human diplomats. Zax Fool slammed a fist down. Impossible. No species would dare defy the Concordat. But even as he spoke, he knew something unprecedented was happening. The Concordat had ruled through fear and technological superiority for 1,000 years. Now, a single species was not only defying them but inspiring others to question their rule. Prepare the main fleet, Zax Fool ordered. We will crush these humans once and for all. Their defiance cannot be allowed to spread. What Zax Fool didn't realize was that it was already too late. A spark of resistance had been lit. The red planet Mars glowed against the blackness of space. Around it, orbital defense platforms created a protective web. Behind them waited the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 117 ships of various sizes, all that could be gathered from across the solar system. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship Defender and watched as the enemy approached. The Concordat fleet was massive. Over 300 vessels moved in perfect formation toward Mars. This is it, Carter said to his bridge crew. The Concordat has committed almost everything they have in this region of space. They mean to end this today. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. The enemy believes they will break us today. They believe that superior numbers and technology will force us to surrender. They are wrong. Every ship is equipped with Howard's shield modifications. Every weapon has been enhanced with what we've learned from their technology. But our greatest weapon is something they don't understand. our determination to remain free. Today we fight not just for Earth or Mars, but for all those who have lived under Concordat rule. Good luck. Carter out. The Concordat ships entered Mars orbit and immediately opened fire. Energy beams lanced toward the human fleet and defense platforms. The battle had begun. Meanwhile, a small group of human ships waited in a hidden position near Earth. Carter had placed them there as part of a daring plan. Commander Ward led this special task force of 20 ships, modified with the best Concordat technology humans have been able to adapt. The main fleet is engaged, Ward told her crews. Prepare for Phase 2. We will only get one chance at this. Back at Mars, the human fleet fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. Several ships had already been destroyed. Carter's flagship shook as it took multiple hits. Shields at 40%, reported his tactical officer. The modifications are working, but they can't hold forever. Carter nodded grimly. Hold position for 3 more minutes, then execute Maneuver Delta. The human fleet began a controlled retreat, drawing the Concordat forces into a specific position. It looked like they were losing, falling back in disarray. Zach Thule, watching from his command ship, allowed himself to feel triumph. The humans break before us, he told his officers. Push forward. Show no mercy. What Zach Thule didn't know was that the humans were leading his fleet into a trap. As the Concordat ships pursued the retreating humans, they moved into the exact position Carter had planned for. Now, Carter ordered. From Earth, Ward's task force suddenly appeared, having used Earth's gravity well to mask their approach. They emerged behind the Concordat fleet, cutting off their retreat. At the same moment, Dr. Lewis activated a device in her laboratory on Mars. It was the culmination of weeks of work, a modified version of the Concordat's own shield technology that created a massive energy disruption. A wave of energy washed across space. For 30 crucial seconds, the Concordat shields flickered and failed. In that brief window, the human fleet fired everything they had. Dozens of Concordat ships exploded in silent bursts of light. The perfect formation fell into chaos as commanders tried to restore their shields and evade the unexpected attack from behind. Press the advantage, Carter ordered. All ships concentrate fire on their command vessels. Ward's task force targeted the largest Concordat ships with precision strikes. One by one, the alien command vessels were disabled or destroyed. The carefully coordinated Concordat attack dissolved into confusion. On his flagship, Zach Thule watched in disbelief as his fleet was torn apart. Humans were supposed to be primitive, easy to conquer. Instead, they had lured his forces into a trap and struck with devastating effect. Retreat, he finally ordered. All ships disengage and retreat. As the surviving Concordat vessels fled, cheers erupted throughout the human fleet. Against overwhelming odds, they had achieved the impossible. A decisive victory that would echo across the stars. News of the human victory spread like wildfire across Concordat space. On dozens of worlds, subject species who had lived under alien rule for centuries watched and listened with growing hope. If humans could defeat the Concordat, perhaps freedom was possible after all. On a mining world called Vashtar, the reptilian natives had been forced to extract precious metals for their Concordat masters for over 500 years. When they heard about the Battle of Mars, something changed. Workers put down their tools. Guards were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. For the first time in living memory, the Vashtari stood tall and declared their independence. Similar uprisings flared across a dozen worlds. The carefully constructed empire of the Concordat began to crumble from within. In a secure meeting room on Earth, Director Gomes smiled as she reviewed the reports with her advisors. "It's happening faster than we predicted," Kelly said, pointing to a holographic map showing systems in revolt. "The Concordat is trying to maintain control, but they've had to split their forces to deal with multiple uprisings." Andrew Green nodded. "Our alliance with the Mythari is now official. They've committed 30 ships to our cause and have begun liberating their neighboring systems." Gomes turned to Carter. "And our fleet. Repairs are complete. With the technology we've adapted from captured Concordat ships, we're ready to push beyond our solar system for the first time." Gomes stood and looked at each of them. "Then it's time for Phase 3. We take the fight to them." 3 days later, a joint fleet of human and Mythari ships jumped into faster-than-light travel. Their destination was Proxima Centauri, where a Concordat outpost controlled a small colony of enslaved beings called the Terrani. The Terrani were gentle, 4-armed creatures who had been among the first to secretly contact humans after news of their resistance spread. Commander Ward led the mission, her ship now equipped with Concordat drive systems and weapons. When her fleet arrived at Proxima Centauri, they found only token resistance. The small Concordat garrison surrendered quickly when they realized they were outgunned. On the surface of the planet, Ward and her team were greeted by crowds of cheering Terrani. The aliens touched their foreheads to the ground in gratitude as humans dismantled the control systems that had kept them imprisoned for generations. "Rise," Ward told them through her translator. "No one should bow to another. That is what we fight for, the freedom of all species." An elderly Terrani approached her, his skin pale blue and wrinkled with age. "For 300 years my people have served the Concordat. We had lost hope. You have returned it to us." Ward shook her head. "We didn't give you hope. You always had it. We just showed you it was possible to fight back." Meanwhile, at the Concordat capital world, chaos reigned. The ruling council was in disarray as news of defeat after defeat arrived. Zax Hool had been removed from his position as High Envoy. In his place stood a more moderate leader named Vaylor, who had long questioned the policy of forced subjugation. "The Empire is falling apart," one council member shouted. 12 major systems in open revolt. The Mythari have declared independence, and now humans push beyond their own star. Vaylor raised his hands for silence. "Our mistake was thinking we could rule through fear alone. These humans have shown that fear has limits. Perhaps it is time to consider a different approach." "Negotiate with primitives," another counselor asked in disbelief. "With equals," Vaylor corrected. "The humans have proven themselves worthy of respect, and they offer something to our subject worlds that we never did. True partnership instead of domination." As the council argued, a new message arrived. A human fleet had been spotted heading toward yet another Concordat-controlled system. The revolt was spreading, and at its center was the species that should have been easy to conquer, the unexpected champions of freedom called humans. 6 months after the Battle of Mars, representatives from 27 different species gathered at a neutral space station halfway between Earth and the Concordat capital. The station hung in space like a gleaming wheel, rotating slowly to create artificial gravity. Olivia Martinez led the human delegation. She wore a simple blue uniform with the Terran Empire insignia, a stylized Earth with stars surrounding it. Beside her stood representatives from the Mythari, the Terrani, and other formerly subjugated species. Across the large circular table sat Vaylor and the remaining Concordat council members. The once mighty leaders looked diminished somehow, their postures less commanding than when they had first delivered their ultimatum to humanity. "This peace conference will now begin," announced the neutral mediator, a being from a distant federation that had never fallen under Concordat control. Vaylor spoke first. "The Concordat acknowledges the right of the Terran Empire to exist as an independent entity. We withdraw all claims to authority over human worlds and colonies." Martinez nodded. "The Terran Empire accepts this acknowledgement. But this conference must address more than just humanity's status. All species deserve the same right to self-determination." The negotiations lasted for days. Sometimes voices were raised in anger as centuries of grievances were aired. Other times, quiet discussions led to unexpected agreements. Throughout it all, the humans maintained a firm position. They would accept nothing less than freedom for all. On Earth, Director Gomes and Admiral Carter watched the proceedings via secure transmission. "Do you think it will hold?" Carter asked. "This peace they're building. Gomes considered the question. It has to. The alternative is endless war, and no one wants that. Not even the Concordat, now that they've seen what it would cost them. Carter looked at the star map on the wall, showing the systems now allied with humanity. 6 months ago, we were alone, facing an enemy that thought us primitive and weak. Now we're helping reshape the politics of this entire sector of the galaxy. It's what humans do, Gomes replied with a small smile. Adapt, overcome, build something better. Back at the peace conference, the final treaty was taking shape. The document established a new alliance of free worlds, with each species granted full autonomy and equal representation in a galactic council. The Concordat would continue to exist, but as one voice among many rather than the ruling power. When Martine signed her name to the treaty, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Humans had not just secured their own freedom, they had helped liberate countless other beings across the stars. After the ceremony, she found herself standing beside Krill of the Mythari, looking out at the stars through a large viewport. What will you do now? Krill asked. Build, Martines replied. Explore. Learn. What about your people? The same. For too long we were allowed to do only what the Concordat permitted. Now we can chart our own path. As the delegates prepared to return to their homeworlds, a small ceremony took place on the observation deck of the station. Representatives from each freed world presented small tokens of their cultures to be displayed together as a symbol of their new alliance. Admiral Carter arrived just in time for this ceremony, having traveled from Earth to witness the final moments of the peace conference. He stood beside Martines as she placed a small model of an old Earth sailing ship among the other symbols. Why that? Krill asked curiously. It's a reminder, Carter explained. Humans have always been explorers, seeking new horizons, but we've also learned that true strength comes not from conquering, but from building connections. As they looked out at the vastness of space before them, the gathered representatives felt a sense of both accomplishment and beginning. The ultimatum that was meant to subjugate humanity had instead triggered a revolution that changed the galaxy forever. The Terran Empire would not just survive, it would help lead a new era of cooperation among the stars, and any future power that might consider threatening Earth would face not just humans, but an alliance of free worlds inspired by the species that refused to back down.